By using inheritance concept, I can able to reuse the existing properties as well as methods. If I want to encapsulate data or data abstraction, then I'm going to use the interface. No need to write public and abstract. By default, this paint method is abstract method, and I'm going to close the interface. Hello to all, a warm welcome to my new session on inheritance and polymorphism. I'm your Revati ma'am from the Department of Computer Science, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. So dear student, before going to start my today's session, let me to recall the topic which I have discussed in my last session. So dear student, in my last session, I started with how to seal a class and which keyword I want to use to restrict the class from inheriting. So which keyword I want to use, that is sealed. Along with that, I have discussed shield method. To define shield method, I am going to use the keyword new. Along with that, I have discussed what is polymorphism and the two different types of polymorphism, that is static or compile time polymorphism as well as dynamic or runtime polymorphism. And if I consider static polymorphism, which are the example I can able to consider, that is method overloading and operator overloading. Whereas if I consider runtime polymorphism, then example is overriding methods. Now, in my today's class, I am going to deal with what is interface. The two type of interface. Along with that, I am going to deal with what is single interface and what is multiple interface. Along with that, I am going to discuss some of the important point with respect to interface. So, these are the certain topic I am going to deal in my today's session. So dear student, from the examination point, this concept is very important and you can expect one short question under this topic. Now, what is interface and why I required interface? What is the need of interface? So dear student, in my previous session, I have discussed inheritance. So what is inheritance? That is nothing but the reusability. In the sense, I am going to acquire some of the properties of my parent class in my derived class. That means, suppose if I want to acquire any properties of the base class, then I am going to use inheritance. By using inheritance concept, I can able to reuse the existing properties as well as methods in my class. If I consider the type of inheritance, we discussed single level, multiple, multi-level as well as hierarchical. And if I consider multiple inheritance, Java as well as C# program does not support multiple inheritance. Now, suppose if I want to implement multiple inheritance, then I want to use interface. That means with the help of interface, I can able to define or I can able to create multiple inheritance. And to declare and to use interface in my program, I am going to use the keyword called interface. So, interface in C# is a blueprint of a class. That means, if I consider interface, it look like exact class. So it is like a blueprint. And what is the difference then with respect to class as well as interface? If I consider class, in my class I am going to write the body of the method. That means I am going to define the method and I am going to write the body. But if I consider interface, I can able to declare only abstract method. So what is abstract method? That means I am going to define only the method blueprint. That means blueprint about the method. Now, where I am going to write the body? I am going to write the body in my derived class. So, what is interface? It is nothing but a blueprint of a class. That means it looks like similar to class, but class is different from interface. That means in class I can able to implement the method, but in my interface I am not able to implement the method. It is like abstract class. So here interface is nothing but the abstract class. So abstract class in the sense what? In my abstract class, I can able to define abstract methods as well as abstract data members. Now tell me where I am going to implement the code or where I am going to write the implementation in my derived class. So in my abstract class, I am going to have only abstract method. So what is abstract method? I am going to just write the signature of the method, but I am not going to write the definition about that method. So here it is like abstract class because all the methods which are declared inside the interfaces are abstract method. That means whatever the method I am going to define inside the interface or like a abstract method. It cannot have method body. So method implementation in the sense what? Method body. That means I am not going to write the implementation. There is nothing but the body of the method and cannot be instantiated. That means I am not going to create the object. So it does not have any body and I am not going to create the object. It is used to achieve multiple inheritance. So what is multiple inheritance? When I have two parent class and one child class. Okay. This kind of representations are known as multiple inheritance, and to achieve this kind of inheritance I am going to use interface. Now it is used to achieve full abstraction because it cannot have method body. So what is data abstraction? So dear student, we all are familiar with the WhatsApp, and if I consider WhatsApp, we can able to use the WhatsApp and we can able to take all the benefits provided by the WhatsApp. But all the implementation parts are kept hidden from the user. Similarly, if I want to hide the data as well as implementation, then I can go with interface. Implementation must be provided by the class or structure. So interface is nothing but the abstract method. That means I am going to define the abstract method. Now where I am going to write the implementation part, that is nothing but in the derived class or in some other class. The class or structure which implements the interface must provide the implementation of all the methods declared inside the interface. That means if I consider interface, and in that interface if I am having two or more abstract method, for each method I want to write the body, and where I am going to write the body in my class. Interface in C# is a keyword. That means if I want to define interface, what I want to do, there is nothing but what is my first step? I want to use the keyword interface. which holds a group of abstract methods as well as property which are to be implemented and used by an abstract and non-abstract class. That means in my interface, I'm going to define the abstract method as well as abstract data members. And these abstract method and these abstract data members are used by the class as well as abstract class. Defining the methods are properties inside an interface which makes them public and abstract by default. That means if I'm going to define any method in my interface, then by default it is public and abstract. That means no need to specify the keyword public abstract while defining abstract method in the interface. So here, dear student, I am going to have this syntax. I have keyword called interface and I am going to specify the interface name, and this is nothing but the identifier. That means user can able to specify any interface name based on their programming requirement. Then I am going to have the abstract method and I am going to have the abstract data members. So this is the syntax. Now, why I want to use interface? So it provides security. That means if I want to encapsulate data or data abstraction, then I am going to use the interface. So when we have to simply hide some features and have to use those later, that means I want to hide some of the important feature from all the others. In that time, I can able to use interface, and it is essential to hide a few details. That means suppose if I want to hide some important features from the external use, then I can able to use interface. The another important advantage here is multiple inheritance. So dear students, C# program does not support multiple inheritance, and to achieve multiple inheritance, I am going to use interface. And how I am going to write the interface? With the keyword interface. In C#, one class can inherit from a simple parent class inheriting all its features. So, multiple inheritance is not supported in C#. That means C# does not support multiple inheritance. Even if I consider Java program, it also does not support multiple inheritance, and to achieve multiple inheritance, I am going to use interface. And if I consider interface, there are two types of interface, that is single interface and multi-level interface. Now this is the example for single interface. Single in the sense what? Only one interface. That means I am going to create only one interface. So to create interface, first what I want to do? I want to start with public interface, and what is my interface name? That is interface 1. Now see here. See here. This is nothing but the abstract method. If I consider C# programming, by default it is public and abstract. So by default it is public and abstract. That means no need to write public and abstract. By default, this paint method is abstract method, and I am going to close the interface. Now where I am going to write the body? In my class. Now what I want to do? I want to implement interface. So dear student, please make a note here. If I consider Java, after creating interface, I want to implement that interface in my class. For that reason, I am going to use the keyword implements. But in C hash, I am going to follow same method like inheriting class. That means I am going to create the class and I am going to implement interface. So I am going to implement interface. Now to implement interface, I am going to use the colon. It is similar to how to use inheritance. That means how to inherit the class. So I am going to use the colon. Now inside this class, I am going to write the body. So see here, paint, which is present in my interface. Now I am going to write the implementation, that is paint method in sample class. So I am going to write the implementation in my class. Now dear student, how to call and how to use the interface. First, what I want to do, I want to create an object. And I am going to create the object for the class. So what is my class name? That is sample. So I am going to create the object. Now at the same time, I am going to create the interface. Okay, for the interface, I am going to create the variable and I am going to convert that variable into object, because here sample is nothing but the object of the type sample class. Now I am going to create the object of the type interface 1, and what is my object name here? That is control. So I am going to assign sample to control. Now with the help of control, I can able to invoke the method called paint. This is the way I am going to call the method which is present in the interface. Now with the help of control object, I am going to invoke the method. So what method? Abstract method which is present in the interface. Now dear student, I am going to have multiple interface. So multiple in the sense what? It is more than 2. So dear student, when I define more than 2 interfaces, then it is called multiple interface. And if I consider this example, interface 1 and interface 2 are the 2 different interface, and it's going to have the paint method. That means if I consider interface 1, under this interface I have the abstract method called paint, and under interface 2 I have the abstract method called paint. Now I am going to implement interface 1 and interface 2. That means I am going to write the implementation part in my class. To implement the method, what I want to do? I want to implement the interface. So to implement, I am going to use colon. So it is public class keyword, class name, colon, and I am going to implement interface 1 and I am going to implement interface 2. Now see here, I am going to write the body. So this is my abstract method and this is my abstract method. And where I am going to write the body? In my class. So in my class I am going to write the body of the method. Now with the help of class, I am going to create the object. So what is my object? That is sample. Now for the interface 1, I am going to create the object, and for the interface 2, once again I am going to create the object. Now what I am going to do? I am going to convert my both the interface object with respect to class object. So I am going to assign class object to interface object. Now, with the help of sample, I can able to call the paint method. Even with the help of control, I can able to call paint method. Even if the help of surface, I can able to call paint method. That means by using three objects, I can able to call paint method. So dear student, here I can able to follow same procedure as we used to create object. So what I did here, first I created the object. Then what I did, I converted interface to object type. That means I am just going to assign. Now with the help of objects as well as with the help of interface object, I can able to run the method. Now dear student, what are the points you have to remember here? That is nothing but the note. So like abstract classes, interface cannot be used to create object. That means for the interface, I cannot able to create object. That means, see here, interface 1, obj equal to new interface 1. This is wrong because I am not able to create the object of the type interface. So what I did, see, first I am going to create the object of the class. Now I am going to create interface variable and I am going to assign the class object. So interface cannot be used to create objects. Now interface methods do not have body. That means in my interface, I can able to have only abstract method. When it is abstract method, no body. And where I am going to write the body in my class. On the implementation of an interface, you must override all the methods. That means during implementing the interface, that means while writing the implementation part, I can able to override the method. Now, interface can contain properties as well as methods. That means interface may have properties and methods but do not have fields as well as variables. Now, interface members are by default abstract and public. That means while defining abstract method, no need to specify abstract keyword and public. That means whatever the method I am going to define within the interface must be abstract method. So manually no need to specify public and abstract. An interface cannot contain a constructor. That means for the interface, I cannot able to create constructor. So what is constructor? Constructor name same as class name. That means while creating interface and whatever the method I am going to define in the interface, the method name and interface name must be different. That means I cannot able to use same name for interface as well as method. So these are the certain point you have to remember while studying interface. Anyway, dear student, in my today's session I started with what is interface and how to create interface and how to implement abstract methods, what are the type of interface and what are the points you have to remember while creating interface. But in my next session, I'm going to deal with operator overloading. In that, I'm going to deal with how to overload binary operator as well as unary operator and comparison operator. Anyway, dear student, let's meet in the next session with the new concept, that is operator overloading. Until that, keep watching and keep learning. Thank you.